Imagine you ate a perfect meal with zero fat today. No butter, no oil, just plain chicken and white rice. Here's a secret about your body. Your liver took that meal and turned it into pure fat. Your liver does not need dietary fat to make body fat. It has a tiny chemical factory inside it. This factory builds brand new fat molecules completely from scratch. What does it use for raw materials? Sugar, starch, and even extra protein. Scientists call this process de novo lipogenesis. That is just a fancy science term for making new fat from things that are not fat. It is the exact reason why you can eat a very clean, low-fat diet and still watch your waistline get bigger. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact foods that turn on this fat-making switch. More importantly, you'll learn how to turn it off. The old story about body fat is very simple. Eat fat, store fat. This idea feels right because you can see it on your plate. You can see the heavy cooking oil. You can feel the cold butter. You can look at the nutrition label and measure the exact grams of fat you're about to eat. For more than 40 years, fat grams have been the main warning number on every single packaged food at the grocery store. The message from health experts was always clear. If you want to lose body fat, you must cut down on the fat you eat. This led to a massive wave of low-fat diets, fat-free snacks, and lean foods. The big assumption was simple. People thought body fat only came from dietary fat. They thought the liver and your body fat storage were just quiet, lazy warehouses. They assumed these body parts just packed away whatever fatty foods you ate last. That old assumption is completely wrong and leaves out half the story. Your liver is not a lazy warehouse. It's a busy, active chemical factory. One of the main things it manufactures inside itself is pure fat. The raw materials for this fat do not need to come from a bottle of vegetable oil or a stick of butter. They can come from simple table sugar, starchy bread, or protein. Your liver takes these things, breaks them down into smaller pieces, and feeds them into a chemical assembly line. At the end of that assembly line comes brand new fatty acids. In plain language, your liver can make fat out of thin air, or more accurately, out of your carbohydrates. This fact changes how you should read every single nutrition label you've ever trusted in your life. Back in the early 2000s, doctors started noticing a strange medical puzzle. Patients were walking into clinics with a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the numbers were rising fast. Today, this condition is extremely common. A huge study led by a researcher named Riazi and his team looked at data from over 1 million adults. They estimated that about 32% of all adults now have fat building up inside their livers. The problem is also getting worse over time. Older studies from around the year 2005 measured the rate at 26%. Newer studies from 2016 and beyond measured it at 38%. Here's the most confusing part of the puzzle. Many of these sick patients told their doctors they ate very little fat. Some even ate a zero-fat diet. They were eating exactly what public health experts told them to eat for decades. They ate lean chicken, whole grains, vegetables, and almost no added fats. Yet, their livers were filling up with heavy layers of fat anyway. Something inside their bodies was manufacturing that fat internally. Something in the foods they ate, foods with zero fat molecules listed on the package, was turning into heavy triglycerides inside their liver cells. The big question is, what was that raw material, and what flipped the switch? Inside your liver, there's a special protein tool called an enzyme. Its name is acetyl-CoA carboxylase. Think of this enzyme as the security guard at the front gate of the fat-making factory. When this guard wakes up, it takes a tiny molecule called acetyl-CoA. This molecule is just a normal leftover piece from when your body breaks down carbohydrates and proteins. The guard takes that piece and locks it into the fat-making path. That piece turns into another molecule called malonyl-CoA. That new molecule feeds straight into a giant machinery complex called fatty acid synthase. Think of fatty acid synthase as the actual assembly robot on a factory floor. It grabs those small pieces and stitches them together, one pair at a time. It keeps going until it builds a long chain-like fatty acid molecule completely from scratch. You don't need to eat any dietary fiber for this to happen. The material comes from the sugar and starches you digest. It comes from sweet foods and even from the extra protein your body turns into glucose. However, not all carbohydrates trigger this factory equally. When you eat regular glucose, like the kind found in starchy potatoes, it enters your bloodstream. Your body releases a hormone called insulin to deal with it. Some of that glucose gets burned right away for energy. Some gets saved away in your muscles for later. Only if the system gets completely overwhelmed does the leftover glucose get turned into fat. Fructose is completely different. Fructose is the sweet part of fruit and high fructose corn syrup. When you eat fructose, it skips the normal safety checks controlled by insulin. Instead, it rushes straight to your liver. Once inside, it enters a fast-moving pathway that pumps out huge amounts of acetyl-CoA very quickly. There are no safety brakes to slow it down. The reason comes down to speed. The liver enzyme that handles fructose works about 10 times faster than the enzyme that handles normal glucose. It works at full speed no matter if your body actually needs the extra energy or not. Real scientific studies on humans have proven this over and over again. A researcher named Stanhope tested dozens of overweight adults over 10 weeks. They found that drinks sweetened with fructose increase this liver fat-making process much more than drinks sweetened with regular glucose. Other scientists, like Parks and Schwartz, ran shorter tests and found the exact same result. A diet in fructose drives the liver's fat assembly line much harder than a diet built from complex, slow-digesting carbohydrates. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Insulin itself is a direct power switch for this factory. When your blood sugar stays high all day long and your insulin levels stay high with it, your body sends out a chemical message. This message tells your liver to build more assembly lines. Your liver literally grows more of the factory machinery in response to constant high insulin levels. This creates a vicious cycle. Eating lots of carbs raises your insulin. High insulin turns on the fat factory. The factory turns your food into liver fat. Then, having fat trapped inside your liver causes your body to become even more resistant to insulin. That resistance makes your insulin levels go even higher. The cycle keeps running over and over again. It does not matter how little dietary fat you put on your plate. Even protein can feed into this system if you eat too much of it all at once. Your liver can turn extra amino acids into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. That glucose can then enter the regular energy path, make acetyl-CoA, and feed the very same fat factory. The effect is usually smaller than eating pure sugar because protein also releases a balancing hormone called glucagon. But if you eat a massive amount of protein alongside a mountain of carbohydrates, your body creates the perfect storm for continuous fat manufacturing. Making new fat in your liver is not an evil disease on its own. Every normal liver does this to a small degree. It is a natural survival tool that helped our human ancestors store extra energy during times when food was very hard to find. The process only turns dangerous when it runs non-stop. It becomes a problem when the supply of raw materials never stops, and when the safety brakes break down completely. 3 specific conditions turn this normal body process into a real health problem. First, eating too much fructose that overwhelms your liver's ability to clean it up. This does not just mean fruit. It means heavy amounts of sugary drinks and processed sweeteners. Second, having high insulin levels all day long, every single day, which keeps the factory gates wide open. Third, eating way more total calories from carbohydrates than your body can burn off for daily energy. When all 3 of these things happen together, your liver turns into a full-time fat factory. That extra fat builds up inside the liver first, creating fatty liver disease. Then, it spills out into the rest of your body, leading to weight gain and poor health. Here's the one big irony public health advice missed for decades. Dietary fat is actually the least harmful part of this entire puzzle. The fat you eat does not flip the liver's factory switch. It does not turn on the genetic buttons that build the new machinery. Dietary fat just gets stored safely away, but it never tells your liver to build fat out of nothing. The real driver of body fat is the chemical environment inside your body. That environment is built mostly by carbohydrates, especially sweet fructose, running wild under high insulin levels. That is the true story of what your liver actually does with a zero-fat meal. It does not store the fat you ate because you didn't eat any. Instead, it manufactures brand new fat right inside your cells using the starches on your plate and the sugary drinks in your hand. It uses a hidden chemical assembly line that most diet books and nutrition guides never talk about. Understanding how your body handles food can completely change your approach to health. By paying close attention to the sugar and carbs you consume, you can finally take control of your metabolism and keep your liver healthy for the long run. To help you put this biology into practice, head over to Raw Valence Access to use our tracking tools. Monitoring your daily patterns is the best way to spot these hidden pathways and stay ahead of your metabolic health.